So, this is where we were up to last time, where we looked at the volume of the cone on the top and then the volume of the hemisphere. We knew you had to find the volume of the cone at the top and then the volume of the hemisphere and then add those two together, which was these two pink parts. Brilliant. So, this is our next one. This is our last example before we have a little go at a worksheet. This is example 7. Last little example before we have a go at some ourselves. So, with this one here, it tells us, now this is more like what a question come up like. This will come up towards the end of the paper. It's usually towards, the end. And we're linking two things together. So it says here, the volume of the hemisphere is this. Determine the surface area given its answer in terms of pi. And they've given us the two formulas that we need to know. So, the first thing we need to think about is, well, remember how we draw it. We draw an oval at the bottom here, and then an arch over the top. Well, the problem here is we don't know what the radius is, okay? We know what the volume of the hemisphere is, so we've got to link two things. We've got to use the formulas to work backwards, and then once we find out what the radius, we can use that to find out what the surface area is. So, we know the volume of the hemisphere, which is equal to 250 over 3 pi. We know that, okay? But we don't know what the formula for a hemisphere is. We know what the formula for the full sphere is. So actually, we need to find out what the volume of a full sphere is, which we need to basically double this, okay? So a full sphere is going to be equal to this times by 2, because that was the volume of the hemisphere, which is going to be 500 over 3 pi. So times by 2 there. So now we know that, we can use this here, we can use this formula and the formula for the volume, which is that one there, to work backwards and find out the radius. Now this one is hard, I know this is tricky, it's probably worth about 4 or 5 marks probably. So to find out the volume of the radius, we need to think 3 things. We need to write down the volume first, then we need to substitute in, then we need to simplify, and then we need to rearrange. So, first thing I'll do is I'll write down what the formula is. Now let me make this a little bit smaller. Like there. So I know that my volume is equal to 4 over 3 pi r cubed. I know that the volume of my full sphere is this 500 over 3 pi. So I can say that 500 pi over 3 is equal to 4 over 3 pi r cubed. Okay? Now we need to work backwards from this. We need to times by 3 and times by 3. Get rid of that 3 first. If I try times 500 pi over 3 by 3, I end up with 500 pi is equal to 4 pi r cubed. Like so. So I've times by 3, I've times by 3. The next thing I need to do is to get rid of that 4 pi. So exactly the same as I did before. So divide by 4 pi. Divide by 4 pi. If I divide by pi, pi divided by pi will cancel. They would cancel. So it's just 500 divided by 4. Well, if I'm dividing by 4, I half and half again. So 250, 150. Sorry, 250, 125. So 125 is equal to r cubed. And then the last little part, I need to cube root and cube root. So the cube root of 125 is 5. So I know that my radius is equal to r. Now I think that's probably one of the harder parts. Working backwards first of all. Remember, you've got to find the full sphere first because it's a hemisphere. And now, remember, we did this before. When you're doing the surface area of a hemisphere, you need the area of the curved part, which will be this bit. But you also need the area of the circle on the bottom. So, to find the area of the curve, we find the area of a full sphere and then divide it by 2. So the area of the curved is equal to, remember, this is the formula for the surface area of a sphere. So it's going to be 4 pi times by my radius, which is 5 squared. But because it's a hemisphere, I need to divide by 2. And this would be the blue part here, like so. Remember, we're dividing by 2. Let's just make it really clear. Divide by 2 as hemi. So this here would be, let's leave it in terms of pi, 25 times by 4, which is equal to 100, divided by 2, this is equal to 50 pi, there, like so, centimetres squared. You put that into your calculator if you have it. But remember, this is just the area of that curved top part. We also need the area of the circle, which is going to be the green bottom part. We know the formula for the area of a circle is pi r squared, which in this case would be pi times by 5 squared. 5 squared is 25, so that would be 25 pi. So in which case, to find the surface area, it's the area of the curved top part, the area of the circle on the bottom, add them together, which is going to be 50 pi plus 25 pi. So the total surface area is equal to 75 pi centimetres squared. It is tough, that. Okay. Sorry. So, I'm just waiting for that to come through. For some reason it's froze again. It's very annoying. Okay, I'll wait for that to come back up. There we go. Don't know what's happening there. Very frustrating. Okay, so yeah, we worked out the area of the circle, which was the bottom, the green part. And then to work out the total surface area, it's going to be the area of the curve, which is the 50 pi centimetres squared, plus the surface area at the bottom. Sorry, probably plus the area of the circle at the bottom. Alright, I'll give you a second to get that down. Okay, so there's the answer to that, 75 pi, which we know. So we're going to have a go at some questions now. So if you're catching up at home, here's the worksheet and the questions I want you to have a go at. So pause now and have a go at those if you're catching up. And if you're catching up at home later on, pause now and have a little go at those ones down here. So have a go at those ones. And if you want the answers, there's the answers to those. So if you're catching up, there's the answers.